So how are you?
Doing well. Yeah. Thanks for having me. It's just so beautiful here. So yeah, very happy to be here. Okay, so I want to do this right. So grab like this. Wait a moment. Is it hot?
It's really hot. Yeah.
Okay. So do you kind of just like wait for a second?
Yeah, I mean, you
Or
can
you can just go
just drink it,
slowly?
but be careful because it's hot.
Oh, it's very nice.
Nice.
Yeah, I've been drinking a lot of mate. Sometimes I need to like control myself because I'm just zooming. Like, you kind of have to find the outer limits of your tolerance. But it's a very nice feeling. It's very like it's different to coffee. It's very kind of it's a bit smoother for me if I
Mm.
don't overdo it.
Yeah, and it's nice like for drinking, like for long periods, like working or studying.
I also really like things that have a bit of a process or a ritual to them, like the pouring, the sharing, etc. Yeah, but I'm slowly learning. I know you're not supposed to like touch the straw, and you have
Yeah,
to.
no, really good. Like you learn fast.
Mm. Okay, might be enough for me now. Thank you.
You're welcome. Well, thank you for coming here,
Of
Timour.
course, thank you for having me.
Welcome everybody. We are on this special episode. Really special episode for me because it's my first one in English.
Oh yes, wow, amazing.
So it's going
Thank
to
you.
be really nice to be able to translate this conversation to Spanish. We are here in Patagonia, surrounded by mountains,
Yeah,
a nice forest,
yeah,
with fresh air, drinking some mate, and having a conversation with someone who is reimagining how communities and innovation come together. My guest today is Timour Kosters, founder of Edge City, a society incubator that brings together thousands of people around the world to prototype new ways of living, working, and connecting. And my first question for you is like, for someone who's never heard about the city, like, how would you describe it? Like,
yeah,
how do you describe it in a few words?
yeah. So, first of all, thank you for having me. It's really wonderful to be here, and like you said, we're just surrounded by this beautiful nature. So it's been an amazing week we've had here so far.
Mm.
So Edge City, we call it a society incubator, and what that means is that we're an organization that's trying to reimagine how people live, how the technology we build comes together, how we can collaborate and, educate our future generations, educate ourselves, and things like this. And the primary way we do that is through a format of event that we call a pop-up village that we have helped to um, create. And basically, what that is we gather anywhere between 500 to 1,000 people to live together for a month in an environment that's specifically created for experimentation, new ideas, collaborations between everyone. People have a chance to share what they are experts in, they have a chance to learn from each other. Often we find people starting projects together, and yeah, it's just a really wonderful kind of microcosm for a month. And we do this all around the world. So we've done this in Thailand. We helped do something in Montenegro called Zuzalu. We have done Turkey, South Africa. I was just in Bhutan in the Himalayas a few weeks ago for kind of a mini version of what we do. And here we are now in Patagonia. We've just kicked off Edge City Patagonia. We're in San Martín de los Andes. It is yeah, it's just been a wonderful process so far, but we'll get into that. Yeah, that's who we are. That's what we do.
And I'm interested in how this journey began,
Hmm.
like because you have been doing like a lot of stuff for the past years, founding companies, also being partner of a venture. So like how this journey of uh, decentralized communities like started for you, like if
Yeah.
you go to the past, to the past years.
Yeah. I mean, just to give a very brief sense of my early background. So I feel like I've lived a very decentralized life. I was born in a small town in Russia, in Siberia, in the Far East, near the border with China. and was lucky to move just my mum and I to London when I was 6 years old. So very quickly got a sense of kind of new cultures, new ways of being, having to, adapt to new environments. Um, I grew up in the UK. I moved to the US, to New York, to study for university. I did math, econ, and computer science at university, and then pretty much spent the following 10 years in and around startups in various ways.
Yes.
Um, and yeah, within that time was kind of discovering crypto initially by using it on the internet, and then when Ethereum came around, really understanding the potential of it as something that can kind of change the like root infrastructure of society. And that really captivated me because I had studied a lot of game theory. I'd done lots of game theory research at university, but it was always felt so siloed and so kind of in an academic box, and
Yeah.
none of it really felt real. So we'd be running experiments with people who were, doing iterated prisoner's dilemma games and things like this. But when I discovered Ethereum, I was like, oh, right, this is all playing out actually at a global scale. We can actually glean insights from the way that incentive structures work. We have the toolkit now to create new systems for that. So this really captivated me and started my journey into the crypto space. Eventually, that landed me at a place called Seed Club Ventures, kind of a fund focused more on DAOs and that side of the space. So I'd say very kind of thoughtful projects, much less of the casino, much more of the computer side of crypto. Um, and while I was there, I was invited to an event called Zuzalu, which was started by Vitalik Buterin. And me and my colleague Nima, we were essentially invited to run the AI track at Zuzalu. This was 2.5 years ago. Like ChatGPT had come out, but the idea of like crypto X AI was very nascent. That wasn't even really a meme that people were using. And we managed to get just an incredible group of people who are now all leaders in the intersection of crypto and AI.
Nice.
But back then, everyone was just starting out and thinking about decentralized compute. Like the company Prime Intellect, I think, started at that event, and now they're one of the leaders in the space. So that was kind of the original moment, both for that intersection, but also just for this broader pop-up village space as a whole. And for me, that was a real kind of spark moment of thinking, oh, wow, there's something very special here. Like having seen Zuzalu. Zuzalu, for people that don't know, was a 2-month event in Montenegro. We had 200 people living there the whole time. We had just under 1,000 people come throughout those 2 months as visitors. And I think it was one of these kind of inflection moments that really expanded the adjacent possible for people. So people realizing what is possible now with these pop-up villages and pop-up cities. And I'll just finish by saying that what really clicked for me, one was that I had a very personally meaningful experience. So I really enjoyed it myself, and it felt kind of very profound from a, lived experience perspective. But two, I also started to realize that there is something very important about creating environments where people can actually come temporarily to discuss new ideas about the world, about society, about technology, about the future, and actually build not just discuss, but then also start building those concepts, right? Because you're surrounded by builders and very high agency people. And this is something that has happened throughout history. I don't think that is a particularly new idea. There is a long lineage that we're stepping into. But I do think it's important, especially in moments where the world is changing a lot. I do think it's important to find time to take a quick, step back, a momentary, exit from our normal ways of thinking, normal silos.
Yeah, routine as well. Like,
Exactly. And we can talk about that. Like how does this actually, play out with people and their experience and how do they start thinking differently. But yeah, I think it's just like a very important thing for the world for something like this to exist, and that's kind of where the journey got started.
Yeah, you want a little more?
Yeah, thank you.
You're welcome. Yeah, it's really crazy. I have been in Edge City for just 1 week, like now.
Yeah, how's it been?
Wow, crazy.
Yeah.
Like it changed, like definitely my entire morning routine.
Yeah.
Like we are going to the lake to do cold plunge and meditating
Yeah.
every day, and going for a run, going for sauna with
Yeah.
meeting like amazing people every day, like having like really interesting conversations like in a sauna, you know.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's something that you are not expecting like on these kind of events, but there is like really magic happening like during these spaces, and even being able to share like some of our culture like
Yeah.
asados,
Yeah.
mate, like
Yeah.
and people are enjoying like this.
Oh, it's
It's
incredible.
very much.
It's incredible. I think I've done 4 asados so far in like 8 days, and I'm still really enjoying it.
Totally.
Yeah, no, it's just wonderful. And I'll say one note about being here. So we've, like I mentioned, we've done this around the world, and it's always very special. There's always unique aspects of everywhere we go. But I think here we've had the most kind of easy flowing relationship with folks on the ground.
Hmm.
So we've been working with an amazing organization called Kotesma, and they have a space here called Bit. And they've just been the most incredible partners. They're a cooperative in town that does a lot of technical infrastructure, internet, etc. And when we first started speaking to them, many months ago, we first started having calls. It was amazing. They just like instantly understood what was happening and were very just energetic partners and were excited. They were following up with us and like, hey, when can we do, what's happening? Usually we have to spend a lot of time developing relationships, kind of convincing people locally that this is a good thing, etc. So it's just been incredible to be in Argentina, in Patagonia specifically. And also there is just an amazing vibe here that people talk about a lot. People that come to Argentina and then they're like kind of almost become obsessed. Like I want like
It's like
Argentinian
they bring their
friends.
culture
Yeah, exactly. But it's so real. It's so real. Everyone that I've met here is just very fun and energetic and welcoming and has interesting ideas and etc. So I'm just so happy to be here. Yeah.
That's really nice. I also want to say thank you to Mariano for hosting us.
Yes, we're actually in Mariano's house.
Exactly. It's a beautiful place, like in the middle of San Martín de los Andes, and they have been being amazing with us. I mean, I had the opportunity to deliver a workshop here in San Martín, in Cotesma, in the Cine, and it was full of like people from San Martín, like local people that they wanted to understand more about crypto, AI, like how to buy code like
Yeah.
products. And I think that is really amazing because like sometimes it's hard like to explain, like
Oh, of course.
to your
Yeah.
mom or to your friend, like, yeah, I'm going to a pop-up city.
Yeah, yeah.
Like, what is a pop-up city?
My
Like,
parents still don't understand. Like they haven't understood what I've done for the last 10 years,
That's really
Yeah,
nice.
yeah.
And I see like a lot of people like locals coming here like from different fields, like psychology, like journalists,
Mm-hmm.
and they were like learning about AI and learning how to create stuff. And then that is something that I really admire from these initiatives,
Yeah.
how they arrive to a city and start like bringing like some curiosity like to the local people, not only the people that is coming from outside to connect, to have ideas, but also for the locals. And that's why I wanted to ask you, like, why did you decide to bring Edge City to Patagonia? Like, when you were studying like all the places around the world, like,
Yeah.
why you choose like Patagonia?
Yeah. So we have a very robust scouting process, and for us to actually pick a place to do one of these things, a lot of things have to align. Um, in this case, it began with our relationship with Argentina has, we've had over the last 2 years, we've been working on we've had lots of friends here. For example, Juan Benet from Protocol Labs has been spending time here. We met the folks that would eventually become Crecimiento, who were friends and now are, moving, kind of pushing forward this movement with crypto adoption. And so we've just been interested in spending time in LATAM more broadly, and then also specifically in Argentina.
Nice.
And then when we found out that Dev Connect would be hosted here in Buenos Aires in November of this year, we knew we had to do something. We knew we wanted to do something in the region ahead of, before the event. So within that, then we started looking at various locations, and we started talking to, for example, Cello, who's the founder of Lemon, which is a big, for folks who don't know, it's a big kind of crypto company in LATAM. And in our initial conversations with Cello, he suggested San Martín de los Andes because I believe his family is here. He actually spent some time here with his team when Lemon was first starting during COVID.
Yeah.
They ran a big experiment here where they got every merchant in town onboarded to crypto. And this was like 4 years ago, and that was like hard to do. So he had a long history with this place. And so when we first scouted it about a year ago, we just fell in love with it. Like, it's just such a perfect town for what we're trying to do. Actually, pretty much since the beginning of Edge City, we've been talking about doing something in a mountain town.
Nice.
Because it's kind of the perfect environment for us, because there's a lot of capacity for tourism. So there's, in other seasons, they have a lot of tourists in the winter. But because we're off season now, all of those hotels and Airbnbs and restaurants are open, but they're not filled. And so they're actually quite interested in having more people come during off-season times. It's also just beautiful, and it fits into the image, into what we're trying to create in terms of full spectrum living for people.
Nice.
Living healthy, spending time in nature, having space to do your deep work, but also doing the cold plunge in the morning or doing the sauna in the evening. And yeah, so that's kind of pretty much why we wanted to do some kind of mountain town. And so the pieces started to line up. And then the real kind of decision came when we met Mariano and the Catesma team and the other folks locally who were just clearly interested in what we're doing.
Nice.
And it's not just like a random beautiful town. There is already a energy around new ideas, technology. There's startups forming. We just had last week, we had a local demo day, which I don't think we've ever done to this extent, to this size. We had people come locally to present what they're building on. And it was such high quality and such interesting projects that it's definitely something we're going to do much more of. I think we'll do it weekly while we're here, and then try to, cultivate that in the future as well. And then also, I mean, just like look at it. It's like ultimately why Patagonia is like, I mean, it's just stunning, and it's nice to spend time in stunning places.
Yeah, and today I will put a little more.
Yeah, please.
Yeah, and it's really amazing that you mentioned like this about Chelo and Leon. I really admire how Chelo was like connecting with everyone, like the like co-working space and events. I mean, he's founder of maybe the biggest like crypto company in LATAM.
Yeah.
But he was like another one of the community, like sharing with everyone, like answering every question.
Yeah.
And even like they launch like mini apps like here in Edge City. It's a crazy opportunity for builders from all over the world to connect with the LATAM market.
Yeah.
Because they have 1 million active users.
Yeah.
But also for local people to start like building startups. I remember when I started like on the Web3 space, if you wanted to do like something with KYC, your person, it was really expensive. Like it was like really hard to start a Web3 company. And now Lemon is providing, all the license, all the, your person, all the like the structure.
Yeah,
So anyone like in some minutes can launch something like really cool. And I think that is something really amazing that happened in
it's
this
incredible.
city.
Yeah.
So it's like you are connecting like all the dots like through this experience.
No, it's very meaningful for us. I mean, it's like we would have a great time here regardless, right? It's like I mentioned, for all of the reasons, but it's so much more special because we have people like Cello, people like the local partners who are spending time here, actually launching big, product launches while they're here. That's very cool. Um, and yeah, and he's just like the coolest guy, It's like really nice to hang out with him. But we see this a lot, we have so many folks from, Vitalik to people like the founder of Notion was at our last event, or people who are on the board of Anthropic or OpenAI, or like, these kind of people who are really at the top of their game, and then they come to a place like Edge and it just feels much more comfortable, because it's not, I know they're not being mobbed or anything, and it, and their kids are running around and getting to know the other kids and stuff. So it's just like a really nice environment. Um, but it's also not just for those people, right? There's also
Right.
young builders, people who are working on interesting things. We talk about how when we curate the ecosystem, we look for folks who are curious, kind, and high agency. And each of those are very important. Like curious, we want people who are interested and interesting, they want to learn more about the world. um kind is very important as well. There's just like a strict no assholes policy. Like we just don't want that in the space. And so if someone is extremely successful but they're just not a good person, we won't invite them.
Nice.
And one thing there is, kind does not mean nice. You can be kind to someone and still give them, feedback. You can still thoughtfully push back on their ideas, but there's a way of doing that with humility and with, thoughtfulness.
Like private feedback.
Yeah, exactly. And then high agency is important. We want people who are actually, active and doing things in the world. And that doesn't just mean startups. That can mean, obviously building, yeah, tech, software, hardware, but also, you know, making interesting pieces of art, culture, we get video creators, we get musicians, we get people working in academia coming a lot, scientists. So, but just people who are kind of in contact with reality and with the world and trying to, affect it in some way.
Mm.
So, yeah, that's a bit of a tangent, but more on how we craft the community.
That's really nice. I mean, I'm totally agree what you are saying, and it's really nice that EdgeCity is becoming like this safe place, safe environment for everyone to feel like,
Yeah.
like in a good environment. I mean, you mentioned like so interesting stuff, like having Vitalik in an Edge City, like how is, like just sharing, living with these kind of people that are like on the top of world tech innovation, how they like connect with locals and with, I don't know, I cannot imagine like, for example, people from my city, from Salta, like thinking to having Vitalik or someone like this, like top like founder in their cities. Like, how did you feel like this experience?
Yeah, I mean, it's at the end of the day, everyone's human as far as we know, and we, it, people are chill. They like to be around other interesting people. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Um, Vitalik is wonderful. He really cares. He's obviously extremely smart and just an incredible thinker and builder. But he also just really cares about this, you know, not just the theory, but actually the practice. Like we, the reason Zuzalu happened was that there was a book that was released the prior year or even 2 years before called The Network State that very skillfully combined a lot of ideas that have been around for a few decades and created this kind of meme or this industry almost of, you know, people thinking about network societies, network states, but no one was doing anything about it. No one was actually trying anything. There was a lot of talk, but not so much action. And so it actually often requires someone in Vitalik's position who can just take the agency and be like, okay, I'm going to plant a flag. It's going to be in Montenegro. We're just going to do it and see what happens. And so I really appreciate that. And then he was there, I think, the whole time, you know, just at breakfast, hanging out with people. And people are always a bit like unsure how to approach.
Yeah.
Or in Thailand last year, he was there the whole month with us. So yeah, it's just really, really wonderful to see. It's something I really appreciate.
That's really nice. I saw that you have been in the Network State conference in Singapore, and you definitely like met a lot of people. How do you see this concept of network state evolving over the next decade? Like, how do we bring like all of this theory to practice?
Yeah, that's a big question. So a few things there. I think one of my main reflections from this past conference that just happened a few weeks ago in Singapore was that it finally feels like something real. There were 3,000 people, 3,500 people at the conference. The space was packed from 8 a.m. till 5 p.m., which is very rare at conferences. We each had, I gave one of the first talks. We each had 5 minutes. So it was just like boom, 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 ideas, ideas, ideas. But people were locked in, you know, they really were kind of paying attention. We had a mix of people who were, you know, starting projects and running them, like myself. There were investors, there were people from sovereign states, there were, the speakers, and there were kind of the, say, influencers, you know, who were adjacent to the space. So it felt like there's real momentum. That's something I'm grateful for this conference, and the organizers, Balaji and his team, of just gathering everyone and giving people a sense of like, okay, this is something, you know, serious, and we should, you know, we should be excited about being in this space. So that's great. I think in terms of how it's evolving currently, so we're in the very beginning stages of moving from ideas into practice. And for people who have not read the book, essentially a network state is a collective of people that forms online and connects primarily through digital means that over time creates kind of pools, shared resources through crowdfunding, through crypto, and eventually with the intention of kind of being instantiated in physical space, so buying land, having nodes around the world, etc. And with some kind of goal, some kind of focus, like some innovation that they want to see done differently in the world. So one thing that's interesting is that when the book came out in 2022, there was a lot of excitement about it. But again, like I said, no one was doing anything. And the book basically said, okay, everyone's going to meet online and then they're going to buy land and they're all going to live together happily ever after. And eventually they'll be recognized by states. And I think what people have realized over the last few years is that there is this very important step in between, which is that first you need to actually meet in person, actually host things together so that the people who will make your network state actually have a chance to meaningfully connect and grow bonds and, develop kinship and affinity to each other. And I think that this is our main contribution to the space, initially through Zuzalu and now through Edge City, is just making it clear that this is a very important thing. These pop-up cities, I think, are the best way to do that, because people come and there is such an amazing set of experiences that they really get connected. They connect in a way that is just not possible in a conference, right? In a conference, you come, you meet someone, you have 10 minutes, you just need to like exchange contacts, you say, okay, let's connect, and then you never do. Here, you meet someone and you have time, you'll see them at breakfast the next day or at the sauna or on a hike or something. So you just get more interactions with people. So it's a way of bootstrapping connection in the community that then you can use for whatever your goal is, for buying land or whatever. So what has happened over the last 12 months, I would say, is that people have realized this, and so there's a lot more projects like that starting to happen. But even as that happens, people are very much thinking about where is their permanent place going to be. And that's something I noticed at the conference. Everyone is now talking about permanence, like where is the land going to be where you're going to build your new society. And so I think that will be kind of the meta for the next 2 to 3 years as these permanent spots start to get created. And then over time, I think that these communities will start to get a lot more agentic. They'll have a lot more collective power. And they will start to kind of create the worlds around them that they want to. So in our case, we want to build communities aligned around human flourishing. That's what we care about. We want to do this around the world. We're already helping build a new town in California. We're helping with a new city project in Bhutan. There are a few other places where we will have permanent nodes over the next 10 years. Other people are focused on something else. Other people care about Bitcoin, or they want to start a society that's, free from regulation so they can do science experiments, things like that. But yeah, that seems to be the direction that things are going.
That's really interesting. I mean, like you mentioned, like many cities happening around the world, and you told us like why you came to San Martin, but I want to think a little more about the region, like what role you think Latin America can play in this movement of pop-up cities and cities, network societies.
Yeah.
That are coming a lot of people from outside, like LATAM, with, as you say, like a lot of ideas, a lot of philosophy on future of societies, and even also a lot of resources compared to what we have like here in Latin America. But I see here a lot of talent, a lot of potential, like much more sometimes like connection with, local realities and local problems, that in a way, speaking with people from outside, I see much more like philosophical reflection,
Yes.
but sometimes a little of detachment from, reality.
Yeah.
Like how do we like mix these kind of talents, this kind of like value that each region can like give?
Yeah. Yeah, that's a really good point and a good question. So, part of the reason why we have started as a global network from day one is that we want to create an ecosystem where we can learn different lessons from different regions and spread those learnings around the world and spread those learnings around the network. And so we're not just trying to create San Francisco in some other place.
Yes.
We want to be global from day one because we think that's where the most interesting ideas will happen. If we can actually activate this global network and do it thoughtfully, that will lead to new kind of novel innovations. So within that, and I actually want to get your thoughts on this as well, but my sense is that it's a really good point because, living in the US for 10 years, or now I live in Europe a bit more, these areas of frontier technology, when it comes to crypto and actually the utility of it, is very theoretical. It's very philosophical almost. It's like, wow, wouldn't it be cool if we decentralized payments or decentralized currencies or had decentralized science and things like this? But even just being here for the last couple of weeks, it's so clear that these things are actually useful here. Um, in San Martin, for example, we've gone to maybe 30 different cafes and got them onboarded to um, crypto now using this experiment that we're doing with the World app, and they instantly understand why it's valuable. It takes very little time to convince them. If we tried to do this in California, oh my God, we'd need to spend at least a day or two with every single person and be like, okay, let me just explain what a blockchain is first, and then let me explain, etc. Here it's just instant. Like they just understand because they understand why it's useful inherently. Um, there are also just incredible builders here, which is always, amazing when there's already a flourishing ecosystem of startups and people with interesting ideas and people who have the drive and the energy to build. So I think my sense is that when you have that mix of talent, agency, and then also actual real problems that need solving, um, that's a very potent mix. In crypto, we see a lot of DeFi and fintech coming out of LATAM, which is amazing. I think in the network state, network society space, there'll be some kind of equivalent of either, like governance ideas or, again, like DeFi as it relates to network societies. So maybe community currencies, things like this, that will be incubated here that could not have come out of some other place in the world. Um, but my question back to you is, now that you have a sense of what this is, how do you think it might be useful to LATAM or to Argentina or maybe even to Salta,
Yeah.
the town where you live or where you're from?
Yeah, something that I feel that happens a lot in Latam is that most of these events or activities sometimes are like only focused on capital cities. So Buenos Aires is hosting like 500 side events for Dev Connect.
Right.
And many times it's not even being efficient because you are going to have a lot of like companies and protocols and blockchains like just like throwing money for free alcohol, like happy
Yeah.
hours,
Yeah.
and they are competing for the same audience.
Right.
So like you cannot like get cloned to go
Yeah.
to every side event. And yeah, when I think about that, like coming from Salta, that is really a small city in the north of Argentina, and sometimes it's so hard like to bring people from outside to get to know the talent.
Yeah.
We have a group of devs called Salta Dev with more than 600 like developers in the city, and they are like really passionate about building stuff and like creating stuff. They are learning a lot of blockchain now. We were able to bring like many blockchains to the city, like to do like some keynotes and presenting hackathons and this kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And I'm really also grateful with Aleph, Crecimiento, because they opened like the first online hackathon with IRL like notes. It was like really like useful for the city because they don't have like this kind of opportunities, like competing for a I don't know 50K prize award, and for them like each one of these opportunities could be like really life changing.
Yeah.
And something that sometimes I feel bad about the ecosystem, like tech ecosystem. I have been like involved in crypto for many years. Is that you go to conference sometimes and it's always the same faces, you know, like it's like you met here, you met
Yeah,
here,
yeah,
you
yeah,
met
yeah,
here, and
yeah,
it's like where is the impact on that?
yeah, yeah,
Something that I'm really passionate and I love about the city, like this concept, is that every time that you go to a city, you are like putting some seeds
mm-hmm.
on local people that is going to think like, wow, look at this, these founders, they are creating something amazing. And I cannot imagine like it's my dream to bring something like this to Salta one day,
Mm-hmm.
but what could happen, you know, like if people start connecting with founders and VCs
Yeah,
and they see the potential of efficiency
yeah,
because with just a small amount of resources with AI and with this kind of stuff, we are making like crazy stuff, you know, like maybe hosting a hackathon with only $300.
mm-hmm.
And then I go like to capital cities and I see how they spend like so much money
That's
just
insane.
on alcohol.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
And it's like, man, like we could like be making so much more impact like in the world
yeah,
if we start like just having like these hard conversations
yeah,
and
yeah.
making this like also in a way understandable for the people in power to take decisions because sometimes I feel it's not that they are like just bad and they sometimes they just don't understand.
Totally, totally. Okay, so one thought on the point you were just making. I think that what's happening right now, kind of more macro level, is that the things that cities were always important for are starting to get disintermediated. So, for example, everyone always moved to big cities for jobs, for community, to, sometimes to get educated. But even then, that was always usually university cities are kind of like second cities, um, but mainly for jobs, right? And now, you can work generally from anywhere, or at least it's much more possible, right? And so people are starting to make different decisions based on where they actually live, or at least where they spend significant time, right? So if you can work from anywhere, you still care about community, you still want to meet interesting people, you still want culture, and you want some dynamism, right? You want kind of ideas and excitement and etc. And so, for example, what we're doing with Edge is we are trying to create environments that have the size of a village, but the dynamism of a city.
Mm.
People come here, and after 2 days, they're like, I feel like I've been here a week. There have been so many ideas and
Yeah.
interesting conversations and etc. And it's like a bit overwhelming, actually. We might need to fix that. But the point is, people are just like alive and they're energized and excited, you know? So, and then the community aspect is obviously something we really focus on, and the connection. Um, and if people, and we have time during the day for people to do deep work and they're actually focused on their projects, etc. So they're even potentially more productive, not less, when they're here, right?
Definitely.
So what that means is that suddenly someone, for at least 1 month or 2 months of the year, they can get all of their needs met and they're really excited to be in this environment. And that model can be replicated. It's not like some secret thing, right? It takes a lot of work. It's difficult to do. You need to build trust in the community, but you can do it, right? It's not rocket science. So what that means is that with a place like Salta, now it can start to, maybe the local government can start to think, oh, maybe we can start to attract some of these people, some of these people who are, you know, digitally or like geographically free, right?
Mm.
They can spend time wherever they want. Um, we're actually in conversations with a lot of local governments. We speak to some sovereign, like state level governments, but it's usually a town mayor or kind of someone who works for at the state level who's very interested in attracting, 500 of the world's top technologists to come and spend time in their region, right? Some of them will stay, or at least they will bring interesting ideas. They will activate the local population in some way. And what that means is that for us, we can start to create these partnerships where they can be very helpful for us. They can help our community get visas easily. Often, even mayors of towns, but even at the state level, have a lot of sway with immigration officers. They can offer us venues for discount, etc. Right? So there's kind of a natural partnership there that we're really enjoying.
Okay.
And I think this broader trend of people starting to realize, okay, maybe I don't need to spend as much time in a big city as before will continue.
Yeah, I completely agree. Like on the first episode, we were speaking with Guillermo Rauch, the founder of Vercel, and I was telling him like, I know I'm going to a small like, but really small like village in Salta, where a few years ago they didn't have allowed even access to water or internet, and now they have a Starlink and they have like computers that they get from donations, and yeah, something that I was like a little like concerned, and also Guillermo, it was like we go to this like of a small village, and we saw a lot of people just doom scrolling on mobile, just like consuming.
Yeah.
And when you bring like Edge City and like these kind of initiatives that are like most people are like building and creating and like giving a shape to the future,
Right.
I think it's so inspiring. And like they have the tools to create, but it's also like to share a mindset like that is no, it's not so important like where you are, but that you have global internet access and you can create like from everywhere.
Yeah.
And that I think it's so like crazy how it can change like people's mind and help like people like to grow in terms of mindset.
Yeah.
I wanted to ask like a really connected question to this because I think many people in LATAM feel like language can be a barrier like to joining this kind of experience. I mean, language or even like cost of traveling or paying tickets or like paying for residencies. Like, how do you think we can make it like more accessible so like more local people can also engage?
Yeah, totally. I mean, for us, that all begins by just going to where people are. So, for example, we host one event in the US per year, kind of one big one flagship, that has been in California the last 2 years, and we'll do it again next year. And California is just a very difficult place for many people to go to, right? It's very hard to enter the US, and it's expensive and all of that. So when we went to Thailand last year, when we spent a month in Chiang Mai, we had people coming from all over Southeast Asia and saying like, wow, it's so great that this is, it's like a 1 hour flight away and it's really affordable versus having to cross the world, to attend. But when we were in Asia, I remember folks coming from Latin America were just like, this is really difficult, it's an insane flight. And now similar the other way around, right? Where, we've come to Patagonia. It's a relatively affordable flight from Buenos Aires and hopefully other parts of the country and the region. But I have someone who I'm trying to have attend from Bhutan, and for him it's like a 48-hour travel, But I still think it's worth putting in the effort for these things, and we do a lot of work to raise kind of donations, where the donations don't support us directly. Often they just go towards grants for getting young builders or whoever builders to come from around the world to have the experience. I think it's very important, as we're doing more work in Bhutan, for example, in the Himalayas in Asia, and I think it's very important for us to have a few people from there come to this Edge City so that they can understand what Edge City is, not just from when we are in their country, but also in this context, right?
Yeah.
And they will meet you and they will meet Argentine founders, and suddenly there's this interesting connection across the world, I think the more that happens, the more that that's good. Back to your actual question, I think we do our best to make things as accessible as possible. Again, through donations, covering people's attendance, flights, discounts. For this event, for this Edge City, any LATAM citizen got a 50% discount. Some of them don't need that, and they thoughtfully said, I'll just pay full price. For some people, that's not enough. And so they reach out and ask for more of a scholarship, and we, sometimes do that. And that's kind of the middle ground that we have found to try and be as thoughtful as possible while still making sure that we sustain ourselves, that we break even,
Of course.
And stay alive. Our events are run through a nonprofit, so we're not trying to make a ton of money on these things. We take very reasonable salaries just to stay alive, but we just love this, and we are very excited about the long-term vision of where this could go. So yeah, that's how we've been approaching it so far.
That's really interesting.
Oh, sorry. And last thing I'll say is, Edge City should not be the only organization doing pop-up cities, right? Like, we want to inspire more experiments and more people to try these things. And so, yeah, it's like it shouldn't just be our events throughout the year. Ideally, there are thousands of these experiments running at the same time or throughout the year. And so we want to inspire more people to do something similar,
Maybe also regional, Edge cities, maybe sharing language, that is something interesting.
That's a cool idea, actually.
Especially for people like in LATAM that they don't speak very much English, and they really want to come, but they are thinking, I don't know if I'm going to be able to communicate, to
Totally.
make connections. It's going to be something that really adds value to their experience, to their career.
Yeah.
But I really like your perspective. I mean, I think in LATAM we need to grow also as a region in a way that, we of course we are experience macroeconomic challenge and crisis very often, but I think that people here also need to try to develop your long-term vision, because sometimes we are super short-term thinking. We have hackathons and we only want to just to go for the award and win the prize, and we have some money to expend in the short term, but we need a lot to create this long-term vision of it's not only win an award, but we could potentially create a startup, create new job positions. I mean, as the example of Lemon or Mercado Libre or many other tech companies that they took some opportunities to create something bigger, not just for the founder, but for the entire country.
Yeah.
And that is, I think, one of our biggest challenge, how do we shift from this short-term perspective to a long-term vision of adding value. And for that, this kind of connection, I think it's amazing, because I see how people here are literally thinking maybe 50 years ahead, really thinking about the future of societies, and that is really inspiring.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Yeah, I appreciate that. I think it's, sometimes it's difficult to, or, you might hear someone talking about the future of society 50 years from now. And you're just like, okay, bro, I just need to like, I need to make sure I have a job or like start a startup or so, or like I just raised my money. I just need to execute. Like, I don't care if people are living in cities in 20 years or whatever. But I do think it's nice to have a mix of these, big ideas that inspire and then actionable on the ground insights to actually, grow. I think it's an interesting time right now because the barrier to building in general is starting to lower. And then the barrier to build something global is like really starting to lower, relatively, right? Even 10 years ago, it would be so difficult to come up with an idea here, scale it locally, and then have it become something global, or even for the entire Spanish speaking market, right? Because you need to set up a bank in every country. You need to figure out how you transfer money. How do you pay people, employees in that country, etc. Now, all of those things have just become insanely easy, right? Relatively. So I think it's really never been a better time to be on the internet. Thank you. Think of an idea that is novel and relevant to where you live, right? Let's say you're in Argentina, but then also be thinking about, okay, how do you quickly grow to the rest of LATAM and then eventually the world, right? Especially with crypto and AI projects, they are almost infinitely scalable and very easy to replicate around the world, um, especially with protocols and things like that. So yeah, I think it's a very exciting time, and I hope that maybe some of those sparks of inspiration can really lead to something bigger.
That's really nice. Well, and I have the last two questions to close this amazing conversation. I really enjoy talking with you, Timo.
Likewise.
I mean, if one day we wanted to create a pop-up city in Salta,
Yeah.
Argentina, what do you think we really need to take into consideration to make
Yeah.
it thrive?
Yeah. Okay, so the main things are good location. So, having venues you can use, places for people to stay, um, somewhere beautiful, ideally, that can actually attract people from not just your town, but from the country and, the continent and around the world. Um, so location's number one. Number two is partners. And that really ranges from local partners in government or aligned organizations that can, be interested in what you're doing and also have an incentive for it to succeed. Have some, it doesn't have to be financial incentive, but if it's like a local, mayor or something like this, they ideally will want to see more innovation in their town, things like that. And if they're aligned with that goal, then that makes things much easier for you, right? Um, Third, I think, is just an overarching concept of what makes this special. What's the focus? What's the reason for being in Salta for people? And here I think we could do a better job of this as well to kind of be specific. Some people do pop-ups based on specific areas of technology like privacy or zero knowledge proofs or something. Some people are a bit broader, but it's like crypto adjacent. Some people don't even worry about that, and it's much more about, for us, the through line is something around human flourishing. But there should be something that's easy to understand for people so that they can uh you know decide easily if they want to go, because this whole thing is so confusing for everyone already from the outside that you might as well like at least make one thing easy for them, which is like, what is it going to be? What's it going to focus on?
That's really clear.
Yeah.
Like, it was hard a little to explain at the beginning, like what was EdgeCity to my friends.
Yeah,
I'm
that's
going to
it's a real
Trump.
issue.
And now,
Yeah.
but it was
Yeah.
really amazing also like to meet people from different backgrounds. Like I learned
Yeah.
a lot about like different fields this week.
Yeah.
Like I never speak with so many different like researchers and builders and entrepreneurs,
Yeah.
and it's not something that happen every day in your life, like having all of these like great minds in one place to share knowledge. It was really really useful.
Yeah, cool.
And to close, um, I mean, I want to leave. If you want to leave like one message, like for young founders, artists, like dreamers that are like seeing this podcast, maybe like dreaming with build a career or a movement, like what you are building, that is really inspiring, especially people from the edge of the world, like from places that sometimes they think you need to be a little crazy to do something like this.
Yeah.
What would be like your last message for them?
That's very, very kind of you to prompt that. I don't think I necessarily have like amazing insights, or at least I will say I'm still a young builder. I feel like, so I'm very much one of us. But to answer your question, I do think the main thing to get across is that there has never been a better time to be building something. There's never been an easier time to have an idea and just put it out into the world and just start sharing it. The internet is a beautiful thing. It has lots of peril, like you said, with doom scrolling. There's potential downsides, of course, but if you use it for what it's, for its potential, it's just the most incredible serendipity machine. And if you're able to just start putting yourself out there online, sharing your work, writing publicly, posting on Twitter, doing things like this podcast, I think it's just an incredible, incredible tool.
Mm.
And so I would encourage people to just go for it. The main thing I'm realizing, actually, funnily enough, I think Barack Obama had the quote about this where he was basically saying, no one is any smarter than you. Like, there are some people who are obviously intellectually more horsepower, but like when you get into the top universities, or you get into like the top companies, or you get into, in his case, the top levels of government, you realize you sit around the table and these are just people, and they're just figuring it out themselves. And maybe they're pretending to be bigger than they are, but they're just people. And so you're also just a person, and you can just go for it, and just try. So yeah, maybe that would be my message.
That's really nice.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, thank you very much for watching this episode. Thank you very much, Timo, for your time.
Thanks for having me.
It was 1 hour in a beautiful city, so I
Yeah.
really appreciate
Yeah.
your time. Well, see you on the next episode.
Thank
Ciao.
you. Cool, man. Good job.
It was really nice.
Mm-hmm. Oh,
I think we didn't too much fun.
I know.
Well,